Our new clock isn't so accurate.
It is at 8:27.
We've had some power outages. I guess I'll start my countdown again. Oh, we're on? Okay. Good evening. Welcome all to the Mount Brydges Arena Building Committee December 11th committee meeting. Can I have the roll call, please? Everyone's in attendance, correct? Yep. Can I have a motion to approve tonight's agenda? Made by Mayor Graham, seconded by Councilor Hippel. All in favor? That's carried. Are there any declarations of pecuniary interest? Seeing none, we have the minutes of the July 10th, 2023 Building Committee meeting minutes. Were there any questions or corrections on those minutes? Seeing none, then I'm looking for a motion to approve those minutes. Made by Deputy Mayor McGuire, seconded by Mayor Graham. All in favor? That's carried. And so now we get to tonight's business. So the reason why we're having the meeting tonight was that the mayor had come to me with a few ideas and wanted to discuss them. And I said, okay, that's a good reason, and maybe a good time to have some discussions about what other possibilities are out there in terms of ownership or location or whatever. It's basically going to be a fairly free discussion tonight. But the original idea was that the mayor wanted to approach someone specifically in the private sector to see if there was any possibilities. So I thought I'd start with asking Director Littleborn if he could talk about some of his experiences with called a 3P, private-public partnership, private-public partnership. And just to give us an idea of how some of the more common or maybe the more local examples work.
So thank you, Chair. For those of you who aren't aware, I spent the first 20 to 25 years of my career in the private sector in facility management and operations. I've spent time working in Toronto, London, Sarnia, and Louisville, Kentucky, specifically around private rinks. Some of the experience that I've had a few different experiences with regards to private rinks and their operations. There's a model where you would see the municipality would build a facility. You would then engage a private operator to operate that facility. Those operators are typically looking for a management fee. Typically, they're non-unionized staff associated with it, and then typically in the agreements you would see the municipality would be responsible for operational losses as well as capital improvements. Other options are private operators come in, they build the facility. Typically they're looking more around non-subsidized ice. So what I mean by that is if you were to go to Toronto where a lot of the private rinks are located, you're $350, $400 an hour for ice time. So they're looking for a way to generate enough revenue to cover their mortgage as well as their operational costs and then put a little bit of money away for capital expenditures. How they do that in the rinks that I operated was they look primarily to run their own leagues, their own programming. So adult leagues, and then inside the facility you would have ancillary revenue sources such as large pro shops as well as food and beverage, typically which would cater to the adult environment where you would have a licensed bar and restaurant. Excuse me. Another private operation that I was involved with was in London at Western Fair, where there was an arrangement with the City of London where the City of London provided a certain level of grant to Western Fair to help facilitate the construction of the 4-pad arena at Western Fair. As part of that arrangement, the City of London had to guarantee Western Fair X number of hours of primetime ice for 26 weeks a year for X dollar value. So whatever that dollar value was, let's say it's $300 an hour. I don't know what the dollar value is today, so I'm just using a number. Say it's $300 an hour that Western Fair would charge the City of London. The City of London then would resell that ice to the minor sporting groups at a subsidized rate, let's say $175. Again, I'm just using numbers, I don't know what they are. So the City of London is still subsidizing the ice to the user, but they're paying the full amount to Western Fair. The City of London didn't need to extend the full capital cost of the facility. At that time, I'm going to say it was around $15 million. And then they didn't have the concerns about operational costs, as well as capital costs, or hiring of staff, because it's all non-unionized Western Fair Sports Center employees. So there's a few different types of public-private partnerships. Unsure what we're looking at here with this group, but I think it's a worthwhile conversation to have, because I believe we should have on the table all of the options that are available to us. And there are private rink operators out there who may be interested in setting up shop in Strathroy-Caradoc, provided the climate is right and the agreement works for both parties. So if I have any questions, I'm best to answer them.
Yes, Mayor Grantham.
Yeah. Thanks, Director, and thanks for that. I just, I'm not always busy in my office down there, and this kind of started, I think, two things started me down this road. One is, and I'm not afraid to say it, it's a hefty chunk of change. And at some point in time, whether it's here or at full council or budget meeting, someone has to, bring it out to the open. The $35 million projected is a hefty chunk of change, and we have a job to do to look at creative solutions. I'm all about creative solutions, and I think that's what we need to do. But just, one day in my office sitting there, I just Googled private arenas in Canada, and I came up with a list, so it shows there's something out there. I have no idea what this could look like, but I think there's all kinds of possibilities out there. Let's be honest, we have people who may or may not want to donate land to us. There's all kinds of things that could come together for us. I know there are possibility different medical clinics and kinds of things. My thought is, you don't catch any fish unless you throw a little bit of bait out there and see what happens. But I think we owe it to the taxpayers, we owe it to our fellow council members and the community of Mount Brydges to look at all possible solutions and not ruling anything out. Just let's find out what's out there, because you never know what you could find. And talk to Director Lilborn. If it was me, I'd just find a way to throw an RFP out there, request for proposal. I'm sure Director Lilborn knows all the proper places to throw them out there, and it is a growing community. There's a lot of business down there. So that's it. That's just my thoughts, but I think we owe it to all our stakeholders, the community, and our fellow council members to look at every possible solution. I don't give up easy, so that's where I'm at.
I'm going to just come to you in a second,
Yeah.
Cindy, if you don't mind.
Yeah.
So after we had their initial conversation, I understand that the priority that you were primarily looking for was to get out of the construction tab, and not it's the price of construction that's the most alarming.
Yeah, but again, I don't think going into this we could discount it. Again, I'm familiar with Western Fair, and there are a lot of senior leagues, old-timer leagues out there. So, yeah, it's a construction tab. Whatever partnership it takes to get it done, we need to look at it. no idea where we could end up.
Councilor Hippel?
Thank you. This is just comments, so through yourself to everyone. I like the idea of thinking outside of the box. I think maybe, you know, if the public is, you know, whoever is watching this right now, if they're worried, if they're thinking, holy smokes, we're shutting this whole thing down, that's not what we're doing. $35 million is the high end of everything that we were looking at. We did that on purpose because we wanted to show you what putting it all together, mind like one pad, all together, what it was going to be. And yes, the costs are, you know, they're outrageous, let's be honest. And I don't know if it's not gonna get any cheaper. There are ways to do this and be fiscally responsible. But in the meantime, I really think that we haven't thought maybe outside of the box, and I think this is a good idea. But I'm gonna stop there for a second, because in the meantime, we have an arena in Mount Brydges that is being used extensively day in, day out. Minor hockey alone, and just minor hockey alone, with 600 registrants, over 600 registrants. We also have men's league, we have a junior C team, we have figure skating, and I mean, there's a lot that goes on there. That needs to be a place that all of these users can use safely and continuously until we have another rink. So I guess what I'm saying, and I mean, this is gonna be something we're gonna end up in budget with, and we're gonna be discussing in various levels, right, in council and budget here, but if we're looking at creative ideas, and I like that, I think we should be looking outside of the box a little bit, but I think what should be on the forefront of our minds is that we need to make sure that we're gonna have to put some money into the Tri-Township Arena to keep it going, and to keep it going well. That to me is key. We can't shut that thing down. So I don't know how we do that, and again, that'll be probably a budget issue, et cetera, et cetera. But anyways, those are my thoughts.
I believe Director Littleborn wants to chime in there.
Through the chair to the committee, agree wholeheartedly, Councillor Hippel. I want to let people know that we are still progressing forward with A-Link. So A-Link is still continuing to move forward on the direction that this committee has provided. We have just received, late last week, the geotechnical for the property. So that now informs the A-Link with regards to water levels and soil compositions and so on. So they're going to be able to start pulling together more detailed drawings. So the work is still happening behind the scenes because of the Christmas break. They anticipate to be able to bring some preliminary drawings to the February meeting. So we're still moving forward. So that hasn't stopped while this conversation has started. I think it's good to have a few irons in the fire to continue moving things forward and not be delayed just because we're thinking different streams, potential streams, okay?
And again, going back to the previous term of council, the actual direction of council was to replace the rink. Nothing else. But we started a bigger conversation because if you're gonna change the face of recreation in Ward 2, this is the opportunity to do it, right? And I think it would have been not a proper direction to say, yeah, you're gonna get a rink and that's it. No.
Just sorry.
Yep, go ahead.
And I may not have articulated that properly. There's actually the opportunity, keyword opportunity, to deliver something more exciting to the community, because when you talk to these private people, as Director Littleborn said, they want to put in different amenities. They want to put in restaurants and commercial space. So there's an opportunity for something more in inclusion. So that's the point I want to make, and thank you for clarifying that. I probably didn't, Councillor Hippel, that we're going to continue on the same path. We just need to be creative and look at a different, something different.
Yeah, and so I'll just briefly share my experience with private areas. When we were building Gemini, we toured one, and it was exactly what the director said. It catered purely to adult leagues. It was basically a large Quonset hut with two ice pads in it and a bar at the end, and it was dirty and not user friendly. There was no seating. There was no viewing areas except from the bar. It was just the minimum you could have to churn out as much revenue you could get without investing a lot of cash, and it showed. It really showed. So, when we talk about possible options, what we need to have in the back of our mind is what are our limits of what we're willing to accept, because there's going to be trade-offs, And when we were looking at design options, we were looking at, okay, so what else could we use this space for? And we're looking to build for longevity as opposed to short term, and that may be something that the public sector may not be willing to do. They may be willing to run it for 15 years and then want to sell it to us, kind of thing. So, but I think part of the option too is the discussion is, we know that there's a number of things that are going to happen in Brydges. We know we need to purchase property for fire hall. We knew also probably at some point purchasing property for a works yard. And so do we look at buying a piece of property that's big enough to support all three? And how long can we keep Tri-Township Arena operating to make something like that happen? Which, it's key. And we were operating off of an assumption that we didn't have that long. We needed a resolution in the fairly near term, as opposed to looking 10 or 15 years down the road. But I don't know, maybe if somebody else wants to chime in, Deputy Mayor McGuire?
Thank you, Chair. So we are now moving into our multi-year budget process. Actually, we start tomorrow night. So I'm not sure why we would continue pumping money into this project. I'm not saying we stop it at all, but until we get something firm inside of our multi-year budget where we're looking at, is this a year 3, a year 4, is this being pushed outside the multi-year budget and we're starting to put money away for something in the future. We have thrown around the concept again about different locations, which I think is a good discussion to have. So essentially, in my view, we have a shovel-ready project. We've heard from the community, we've talked about it, we essentially have a shovel-ready project. It now needs to go to budget and start to get some ideas where we're sitting. Because if we're not sitting anywhere close, then we're gonna be redeveloping the existing arena, which is fine. We sit on that committee, Councillor Hippel and I do, and it's still functioning, there's no issues there. So that then allows us to start putting other things in place. So, personally, I don't think we need to continue with any more work on this project until we start to get some direction from council through the budget process where we sit. So that's probably what I would be motioning, but I'll let the discussion continue until it exhausts itself out. But I think we have a shovel-ready project, and we just need to kind of park it until we go through budget, and that'll tell us where we're heading.
So we do not have a shovel-ready project in that we have no formal costings, we have no design, like we have a concept in place, but there's no design saying that you need this amount of power, you don't have shovel-ready drawings in place.
Well, but we're not there yet until we finalize some of these other conversations we're having. So we've heard from the community, we have a concept in place. But we don't know, still, I don't believe we still understand exactly where we're going to put it. You yourself said we may be buying property and combining other types of things. So continuing developing that piece of property and pouring money into that piece of property when we don't know for sure that's where it's going is a waste of taxpayers' money.
So just before you start throwing any motions on the floor.
I have not put one on.
I know, the purpose of tonight's meeting wasn't really for motions, it was just to have discussion and to see what kind of ideas are out there. And then as we go through the budget process, because I agree, it's gotta come up and it's gotta find a place in the budget process. And if it's years down the road, then that's a start, it opens up whole different discussions, but at the time when we started, we didn't have years.
I agree with you 100%. And I mean, that's the great thing about this process is it flushes all types of things out, right? So the process has worked. But to continue working with A-Link until some of this gets right down to where we need to be, like A-Link developing that piece of property right now serves little purpose because we don't know exactly what we're doing. It needs to get to council and get some ideas in the multi-year budget.
Yes, Trigger.
So through the chair, one of the reasons, and correct me if I'm wrong, because I've been wrong before, one of the reasons why we were developing the property, it was to get a shovel-ready project in case grants became available. If grants become available, there's the potential that it's a third and a third and a third. So a third federal funding, a third provincial funding, and a third municipal funding. So not having shovel-ready drawings puts us in a negative position when it comes to scoring for those grants. And one of the reasons for starting to develop and moving forward was in case grants opened up. And staff, staff are continuing down the direction that this committee and council has provided. If this committee and council wishes us to change direction, you just need to tell us that, and then we'll change direction.
And it's been my experience that in the final years of upper tier level of government is when those kind of grants come out as they look at ridings and going, where can we swing votes? But yes, Councilor Apple.
Thank you. So I get what Mike is saying, but at the same time, I understand what you're saying. So I think maybe we've just crossed our wires slightly. I don't think that we want to cancel anything. I don't think we want to, I mean, maybe you said put on hold, but not necessarily. I think we want to have it ready, but at the same time, we want to make sure that we have a spot. It could be anywhere. I mean, if we decide, like you said, if we decide to put that in a fire hall and something else together. But I guess all I want to do is, knowing full well that we aren't throwing this out, that we're not building this tomorrow. I mean, we have to go to budget. We have to look at the multi-year budget. And actually, I will say, it could be, like you said, it could be past the multi-year budget. It could be something that we're saving for, that we're putting money away for. I mean, don't get me wrong. You guys know that I have been pushing for this, and I want this. I want this bad. But I also know that there are other things that we have to get done. So in the meantime, I guess, not to harp on what I had said previously, but I really do think once we do get in, I want to jump into tomorrow's meeting, like right now, actually. But I really do want to make sure that we can still, and we're still able to, and I don't know if that's a decision, we're not making that decision tonight, but I think we're gonna have to put some money into Tri-Township while we are looking at the budget process for this moving forward. Does that make sense?
I don't think anybody's arguing that.
Okay.
I think there's been a pretty strong commitment to keep the rink running while we're, yeah. I mean, the community spoke very loud and clear prior to last year's election, and I don't think that any of us are considering not having an operational rink. But it is something to consider that if my memory is correct, if there was a failure on the floor, that would be a catastrophic failure for that rink.
Through the chair to the committee, the building condition assessment identified the arena floor as past life, and that if that would be the most susceptible. The refrigeration plant's pretty much new. They've had a couple new compressors installed recently, a new chiller. They've had dehumidifiers installed. So the building mechanically, from an ice plant perspective, is pretty solid except for the arena floor. They've recently put boards in, I'm gonna say about 10 years, maybe 12 years ago now. So those boards have got another 20 years in them at least. So it would just be the cement floor with the secondary refrigerant piping that would be required to be replaced. The other concern would be the roof at some point, depending on how long this process is going to take. There may need to be more work done on the roof that we've recently had done over the past little while. So.
Yes, Mayor.
Yeah, thanks, Chair. Actually, there's probably 3 paths to take, and they could all happen concurrently. One is, and I understand what the deputy mayor is saying about the spot, but I think the community was okay with the design we showed them, and you do want to be ready. You owe it to the community to be ready in case those floodgates get open from the other levels of government, and they will someday. You need to have that ready. You don't want to be caught, because I think that's happened before, maybe here or somewhere where we're not shovel ready. So I think you can go with that stream to a point, maybe not. And I understand Deputy Mayor's concern. I mean, the plan isn't site specific, correct, Director? That you could take that and plop that anywhere. Some modifications or two.
Through the chair to Mayor Grantham. The site, depending on how the site is configured, you may have to change the site a little bit, or the designs a little bit. So this site here is very square, that we fit. If we get a long rectangular stretch of land, then you may have to reposition the gymnasium. So you may have to do some additional work with regards to the drawings. But the concept is there. You know what programming that the community wants. The community's identified all of the ice-related programming, and then the future of recreation in Mount Brydges, as Councillor Pelkman has put it earlier tonight. All of that has been defined for you.
So you could do, so there, I think we can do that for minimum, but just keep going with that stream. Second stream being just throw the lure out there for private, see what comes back. I have no preconceived notions. And then the third stream, look at, because even in the budget, if something were to happen or to get approved, you're not building an arena for 4 or 5 years, and things could happen at Township, and we need to head off. I apologize. The worst thing that could happen is something catastrophic to happen to that arena. So that's mine. I would do the 3 streams concurrently.
Yes, Deputy Mayor.
So I would just say, in regards to Township, that is operated by a board. Sorry, I keep falling away from my mic. It's operated by a board, and we have a partner in on that. So we're not looking at major, and I say we because I sit on that board. We're not looking at anything major as far as repairs. Nothing's coming through to us in that regard. If it did, we would bring it back to this council, of course, and then Chippewa of the Thames as our partners. But as everything we're being told is that building is fine to continue running the way it's running. If a repair needs to be made, we'll have to make the repair as a board.
So again, I'm going to bring the conversation around to the idea that the mayor had, and so putting your mind to a public-private partnership where we're trying to get out of some of the capital costs. What would you be prepared to see in terms of removing items from perhaps the drawing that we had, or in terms of throwing a partnership out there? So, I mean, it's fine to say that we're gonna just throw an RFP out there, but what are we asking for, right? So, like, one of the things that I thought about is Okay, so if we're very concerned about the $35 million price tag that we heard back at the public meeting, would we be willing to say, purchase the site, service the site, lease the site for $1 a year, and then maybe have the capital costs of some of the ancillary items that, like the gymnasium and like the community room, which maybe we don't have to build if the Caradoc Community Center's still in function. Like just looking at those items, we could maybe perhaps get rid of a substantial portion of the building cost and then look at the operating cost of doing what the City of London does at Western Fair, where we're purchasing ice time and then selling it at a loss to the minor hockey and figure skating and then adult rec stuff is at the mercy of the private operator. But the benefit of that is maybe you get 2 rinks out of that instead of 1.
Yeah.
And then not if people are willing to pay the extra money for the ice time, so they're not driving to Glencoe or Strathroy to use the ice time here. Yes, Deputy Mayor McGuire.
So I agree with what you're saying. I will say the concepts that you're throwing out on the floor about private partner is pulling it off of that piece of property.
No doubt.
Like, no doubt, right?
No
Like it's,
No doubt, yep. Yeah, that's the idea.
so that goes back to my point, which is, are we paying A-Link another $5,000 to take this information and draw up? I suspect it's considerably more than that we're gonna spend between now and February for them to come back with more drawings. Architects generally are pretty expensive. And so if we're moving in other directions, it's negating everything that we would be having A-Link do. Like,
You'd be having
one
a
is working
conversation
against the
about
other.
Yeah,
potentially.
can I add an adjective to your thing?
I don't know.
Keyword is possibly. And I think that's the key word, is looking at the possibility of going into a different direction. And I understand what you're saying, Deputy Mayor. My point would be with the arena, I would hate to lose time and again, I don't know how much, 10,000, whatever the financial figure is, lose time, and that time piece have something transpire where we didn't have an arena, where something happened to Township, again, it's on the board, or if all the planets lined up, the other 2 levels of government opened the floodgates, and we were stuck holding the bag because we weren't ready. And I think that's the key word, is the possibility of something different, because nothing's given.
So, just a question of,
Actually, I know that Councilor Wilson is
Yeah.
in.
No.
Liza, don't we?
For a change, he's being pushed out of the microphone time.
I just wanted a technical response, and I'm sure it'll be Director Littleborn. So when you do geotechnical, we do them this year, you build in 4 years, are they still valid?
Yes.
So how
The
long?
soil compositions aren't gonna change, the water table, the monitoring wells are still intact. But the soil compositions aren't gonna change. Your water levels may change depending on seasons. But the geotech's not gonna change, with regards to gonna have that big of an impact to construction.
10 years?
What's that? It's not gonna matter. We're not bringing in loads of soil. We're not removing loads of soil.
Right.
The only thing that's going to change could be the water table. Again, that fluctuates in Mount Brydges on a rainy day, right? So when they put in the monitoring wells, they monitor them over a period of time. That's why we started this back a few months ago. So they've been monitoring those wells as we go throughout this process, right?
Councilor Wilson.
Next, Councillor.
Director.
No, I was talking to,
Oh, yeah.
I was talking to Greg for giving me the time.
I was just saying with what we're looking at, the geotechnical, everything that's already done, we're in process. With looking at where we're in the multi-year budget, even with where the arena's listed, it's listed at 2028. That's 5 years from now. I doubt if we, and I guess my only suggestion I'm thinking of with everything we're looking at, possibly changing stuff, going to a different location, all the different things we're looking at, my advice would be, if we're gonna continue going with A-Link, we stop short of a costing. Because if we're not gonna build for 5 years, I don't believe a costing we do now is gonna be valid in 5 years.
I agree.
If we wanna do just preliminary drawing, stop there, because if we change sites, we're gonna change what's there, because we'll still have Caradoc Community Center, we might not need all the rooms. If we go public-private, we might not need this design at all. So I think a middle ground between pausing everything and stopping at an MVP or minimum viable product that we can stop at to give us a place to take from would be my suggestion.
Yes, Director.
If I may, through the chair to the committee, I totally agree with what Councillor Wilsey's saying with regards to the costing. If we can get to what you refer to as a MVP, multi-viable, minimal viable project, is if all of a sudden the provinces open up and the province and the feds open up to grants, we can get costing relatively quickly if we've got a set of base drawings already completed. So that is a very good idea, and that'll save some expense with regards to the use of the architects and their engineers and their costing consultants. But it still gives us that advantage of having almost ready, but we can get that information quickly.
That's a good idea.
I like that.
So again, I'm gonna come back to if the possibility of grants opens up and the federal government and don't forget our riding boundaries have changed, right? Like we're now lumped in with a piece of London, so we're potentially a swing riding now, which we were not before, which could make a difference in terms of funding opportunities. But if that opportunity came up and there was a third, I think ultimately for the programming and the stuff that we presented to the community was the ultimate goal, and we would probably jump at that. Going any other route is losing something and probably some very significant things. So, that's certainly something to keep in mind about why we would want to keep this process going, to have as best a design as possible, in case opportunities come up, because it's a very real possibility in the next 18 months. And if we're going down the budget process and it's 2028, is that correct? Yep. We'll know by then where the land lays and what's happened. If there's a new government and that government's comfy for a while, then that changes the landscape again. But I know when I first came on to council, Strathroy, because it was Strathroy back then, was not ever in a position to receive grants, and so we didn't pursue them, we didn't chase them down, and we've done a much better job of that since then, and I think we need to always be in a position to receive them if we can, because it is, while there's one taxpayer, I'm more than happy to have the other 36 million Canadians subsidize the project in Strathroy-Caradoc. So I guess, I'm not sure where, Mayor, did you have any idea about where the conversation should?
No, I just wondered, do we need to give direction to Director Lilbourne that, just make a motion that Director Lilbourne create an RFP? Would ask that Director Lilbourne bring it back to us to read, to seek public-private partnership on a new arena.
If I can, maybe just jump in.
Yep.
We don't even know what we're asking for, so how can we do an RFP?
So,
We can't do that.
if I may, maybe it's not an RFP, but an expression of interest.
Expression of interest.
To private operators to see if they have an interest in coming to.
Thank you, that's what I'm looking for.
Because the Strathroy-Caradoc is a small community with regards to where you find private operators. Private operators are typically in larger centers like Hamilton, Toronto, Mississauga. London has one private rink, which is a twin pad, and Western Fair is a 4-pad. But it's a pseudo-public rink because it's Western Fair, although is agricultural society, they're a not-for-profit organization. So I would think an expression of interest would probably be
That's a better word, thank you, yep.
The other thing I was gonna suggest is maybe we wanna wait until after or at least that some of this discussion's been had with full council during the budget deliberations to see if the rest of council is even considered as it, or if there's ideas there that we haven't thought of. But again, I would think that we'd be rather putting an RFP out, looking to solicit people to come to us with ideas to see if, because we just don't know what we're.
Again, Counselor, it's not working. Turn me off. I have no idea.
No,
I'm loud enough as it is.
Yeah, speak loud.
No, but I'm just saying, I have no idea. I think just let's throw it out there and write an expression of interest that's so flexible, it's got a language in there that says, we're willing to talk. Come to us and let's have a conversation.
Councilor Abel?
Just a quick ask, so doing an expression of interest, I'll be honest, I understand what an expression of interest is, but I've never heard that done in our chambers before, so, is this something that we need to, does this go in our budget? Well, obviously we wanna talk about this tomorrow night, if so, because that probably wouldn't be in there, right?
Go ahead, Director.
an expression of interest is purely, all we're gonna be doing is reaching out to private facility operators and constructors, seeing if they have an interest in coming forward to present something. There will be no commitment from the municipality to enter into any agreement, any of that. I would be reaching out to a lawyer to assist me in writing the expression of interest, to make sure that I do have the language in such a way that we're not gonna catch ourselves. But I think that is the easiest way and quickest way for us to gauge the temperature of the private market. Because we're not, like as Councillor Pelkman indicated, we don't know what we're looking for.
No.
So going to an RFP doesn't work for us, right? So.
That's good.
So, again, there it works. I'll give you my example from one of my previous careers. If every newspaper used to have a printing press, I'm quite sure that there was one here in Strathroy. If I'd gone to the owners, the Blackburn family of the London Free Press, and suggested 30 years ago that we can take your printing press out, because that's how this started. Printing presses are a lot of money to sit and only be used for 2 or 3 hours of a day. They would have looked at me like, it can't work. But we did that, and it was actually an expression of interest. That's the term. You go to other printers and see if they'll print your newspaper. So there's always creative ideas out there that work, that don't make sense at the time, but not one newspaper now owns a printing press. There's printing companies that Transcon and Quebecor that print them, so it just starts with an idea. That's all I'm asking. Let's start with an idea and see what comes out of it.
So then, did you want to make a motion to provide direction to staff to create an expression of interest?
Yes, I will make that motion.
All right, we're looking for a seconder. Second by Councillor Wilsey. All in favor? Seems everybody put their hand up.
No, we all did that pretty good, eh?
Okay. And again, for any community members who are happen to be paying attention, does not mean we're abandoning the village of Mount Brydges, for sure. Would never want to do that. Inquiries or comments by, yes, Greg?
Do we also want to put a motion forward to limit A-Link scope to a minimum viable product so that we don't go into the costing, or?
I don't think A-Link's doing anything that we're not asking them to do right now.
Okay, I just wanted to ask.
So we're not asking them to do anything, they're not doing anything other than reporting to geotechnical at the moment, right?
Correct, they're continuing to work on drawings. They'll bring those drawings to us before they go to costing. We'll actually tell them or direct them to go to costing. At this time, this committee and council has not given us direction to go to costing. So you would remember that I brought forward a report to council to go to costing on the fire hall. We would do the same, I would suspect we would do the same with this if we were to proceed with costing.
And the work they're doing is under retainer, is it not?
Correct.
Yeah, so it's not gonna cost us any extra to keep moving in the path that we're going at the speed that we're going. Does that satisfy you? But you did, Brian?
Didn't work. I did kind of like the wording that we're setting a minimum viable product threshold at the moment, so.
Except that we haven't defined it, we don't know what it is.
Councillor Wilsey seems to know what it is.
You know, the design that's out there, right, Greg?
Or what do we consider a minimal viable product?
I don't know.
We could set some, like, there's minimum viable products for just about everything. You do it for apps, businesses, all sorts of different things. It's the minimum you can do and have an idea about when you're gonna go forward. So if we're gonna be doing drawings, maybe we just stop at, we don't design the trusses, we don't do the list of materials, we don't do all of that stuff. We just start at like, all right, well, here's your drawing. Our next step, we're like a week away from getting costing. Like, we could set that as a, that's why I asked if we wanted to make a motion for what we wanted that minimum viable product to be.
We're not asking them to do that. They're not doing it on their own either.
So I understand that. I'm trying to explain because another counselor had asked me what a minimum viable product was. So we can set what that minimum viable product is. If we say we want them to stop at a certain point, that can be what our product is, and that's as much as we want to do for right now because that's all we're interested in. We can set that at any level. It's very flexible on what that is, but it's what we as either a council or as a committee see as the minimum result that we want to see back.
Yes, Director?
Through the chair to the committee, there's, Councillor Wilsey is correct in regards to we can set the limit. There are different levels of costing, which requires a different level of percentage of construction drawings completed before you can go to those costings. So if we're considering putting us a percentage or a stop on the work at a certain perspective, I would, if this committee would permit me, to bring back to you the percentages they need for the different levels of costing. Because 70% construction drawings may only get you a Class C costing, where a 90% drawings will get you a Class B costing. I'm not exactly sure of the percentages and that, but I do know that there are different percentages depending on the costing you're looking for. And the different levels of costing is just narrowing it down to get more accurate pricing. So a Class D costing isn't as accurate as a Class B costing.
But we don't need to set any of those limits
No,
down
we
because
do not.
we're not going for costing. Yeah. All right, are there any inquiries or comments from anybody else?
Just real quick one for, after I had this idea, I have spoken to a couple of members or community members from Mount Brydges, and they like the idea that we're looking at some creative solutions to give them something better. And I want to reiterate, Councillor Hippel said that we're not pulling back from anything. We're trying to do the best we can with what we have and give the best possible arena to Mount Brydges.
Yes, Director.
I'm wondering, there was a single pad arena and community center connected. Similar idea what we have proposed, or the group has proposed for Mount Brydges, that just is finishing up construction in Wellesley Township. Would this committee be interested in a tour? The cost of that build was $29 million plus change. I don't know if anyone's interested in
I
that,
don't
or,
have spare time at all right now.
So-
Maybe in the
well,
spring.
in the new year, it wouldn't be now, it would be in the, probably, I would say February or something like that. I'm just throwing it out there. It's,
I'm always
it's something
open to a
that's
car ride with you,
brand new.
Director.
Pardon me?
I'm always open to a car ride
Oh,
with you.
Jesus. I would be curious to see what that price tag cost.
Okay. I'll reach out to the director there in the new year and see what we can set up. February-ish, might be slower.
Yeah, let's hope.
All right, seeing no other inquiries from members, next scheduled meeting will be determined, but I'm gonna guess it's not gonna be in the heat of budget deliberations or, yeah. Sure. No.
Before you terminate, can I ask, or can we have, when these meetings get set, that they come out, like in our normal, invites, so everything self-populates? I know I missed one meeting because I didn't put it in my calendar. So what's the process to get this coming through to us, just like all the other meetings, where I just hit accept and I'm in?
I could just simply, put it in your, I'll send out a meeting invite to all of the people. I'll
I didn't
set
know
it
if you
up
did
for
it.
the second Monday of every month, and then we can cancel the meeting if we need to, and then you just don't come back in. Fair enough?
That'd be great, thank you.
All right, then I am looking for a motion to adjourn. Made by Deputy Mayor McGuire, seconded by Councilor Wilsey. Everybody have a great day. Thank you very much.
Thank you.